Okay, we are live. So if you're watching the replay, you probably are already seeing us. If you're watching right now, probably not so much. I guess I could pull it up, but why would I do that? But yeah, Gina is not able to make it because of migraine, so I'm sad about that, but happy that you all were able to make it. And I'm hoping that this turns out really fun. Not as prepared for it as I would like. So it's a little bit iffy, but you all want to go ahead and introduce yourselves and your channels and what type of books you read. You can go ahead and do that. And we'll start with Robin and we'll go to Vina.
I'm Robin. I'm from Paperbacks and Planners here on YouTube as well as over on Instagram. And you said like what kind of content or what kind of books?
Like both if you want.
Both. I read mostly romance, but every now and then I read something else. A lot of contemporary romance, a lot of paranormal romance, I guess. I do a lot more sit-down videos and vlogs because I hate editing vlogs.
It's understandable.
Hi, everyone. My name is Vina, and I read a little bit of everything, although lately it's been more fantasy and romance. And my channel is Miss WOC Reader.
Yes. We've got Ray and Pat and me having issues. People dragging me for having issues. KJ. Hello. So I don't know if you all have anything ready to go. I have some things ready to go. Like I said, not as many as I would like, but chat, you're more than welcome to say your own things. We will also try and do it. So you can say things that like, hopefully no one is really going to admit that they're doing. But some people do, so like somebody's lying, right? Or you can just do things that like you either do, but you know other people don't. Or you can do things that you are just personally a no for you, but not really a big deal if someone else does them. It's just like a bookish, so it can be books or content, anything to do with the bookish space is totally fine. So to give you all a example, I'll start this out strong. This would be not out loud, right? This would be in your head, but never will I ever read a sex scene in public. For me, I actually don't care at all. I could do it like no problem. But I know some people absolutely will not. So I'm very curious to see what you all in the chat, what the consensus is on this.
I do. I listened at work all the time.
What about you, Vina?
So I'll read it with my eyes. I don't listen to it at work only because I'm afraid that my headphones are gonna die when I'm listening to it and it'll just broadcast all over the place.
I love hearing people's horror stories about that.
Yeah.
I am always thrilled. I think it's because I don't really listen to audiobooks, so I don't really have a fear of it happening to me. So I find it extremely entertaining when it happens to other people.
Now I work from home, so it's less of a big deal. But when I was in the office, there was definitely times where I would like walk around with my headphones in. I would be like, this could be dangerous. Like you're in an elevator and it's like, how much can you hear?
That's so funny.
Yeah, I'm like, I'd rather listen to the tame books when I'm at work, and then anything that's going to be a little steamier at home.
Right. Like the only audiobook I've listened to this year was Pride and Prejudice, and it was because I didn't have to worry about anybody hearing it, and I already know the story, so it didn't matter what I missed.
I will say, this person who does the commuting, when I get to red lights, if I'm listening to a book, I pause because I'm always scared that they can hear next to me.
I would not. I am lacking in the shame department.
Oh, my commute's like 7 minutes from my house, so I don't have time to listen to any audiobooks.
Oh. Yeah. Speaking of no shame, this is off topic, but KJ just made me think about it because of her husband listening to her books, right? On accident. So Thursday, Megan met me at Fader. She had her birthday and her like partner was out of town and stuff. So we did a live for it. And it turned into a dramatic reading of a very sketchy erotica book that is, what is it called? Oh, it's in my husband's text. So my husband saw that I read it on, it's on my other phone. Hold on. It's okay. Sorry. Anyways, he saw that I read it on Amazon. It is Taken by the Tetris Blocks. And he was like, what is this? And I was like, well, I mean, you're going to have to talk to me in private if you want to know the whole story about this. But we did a dramatic reading of it. And it's honestly maybe one of the funniest things that's ever happened to me. But it's awkward when people see that you do it without context.
Is it like on the same like awkward level as Squeak, the balloon animal one?
Oh, it's so much worse. I swear to God. I didn't even read that one, and I'm telling you, we all one-starred it. It was so bad. But all of us reading it out loud together was hilarious, especially because Tetris is apparently, I didn't know any of this, but Tetris is, it was invented by a Russian during like the Soviet Union. And so all of the Tetris blocks had Russian accents. And so everyone who was doing the block voices had to try and do Russian accents. And none of them were very good at it. And it was really funny. I was cracking up. Oh, I have 2 phones because I got a new one today. I have to return this one after I figure out that everything.
I'm like, balloon. What are you guys talking about? Balloon animal?
There is a novella called Squeak that is a balloon shifter romance.
Yeah. Because, so they're like human, but also I watched somebody read it and it's like latex.
Yeah.
Still.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think I'll ever read
Tiff like showed it on Instagram as she was reading it, and her reactions were hilarious. she's like, it actually gets kind of deep at one point. She's like, the juxtaposition of balloon animals and like actual commentary.
Exactly. This is advanced.
Yeah, it really is. It's a little far for me.
Oh my word. Okay. The next one is write a book. I will never write a book. Ever. That is not a thing you have to worry about me turning into. The
I
book
wish I was a writer.
Buy my book. It's not happening for me. What about you?
No, I do want to write a book. I'm trying to do Nano next month to help me move along. Because I used to write being on BookTube and blogging. I used to do a lot more writing, and then I kind of got away from writing the past few years. So I'm trying to start writing again.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think I've seen things from you that you have written before, like updates and stuff.
Yeah, so that's my goal has been this year, to get back into writing regularly.
How's it going? Because it's the end of October.
It's pretty hard, but that's why I'm doing Nano next month. I have my little group, and I'm going to dedicate myself to writing every day. Well, except for that first week, because I'm going to be on vacation. But after that, every day.
Right.
Yeah, that's really cool. I wish I could write, but I'm not. I don't have like the lyrical words for any of that stuff. Like I don't have the skill set.
I wrote basically a novella at one point when I was probably like 8 or 9, which was just a ripoff of Ella Montgomery's books. I remember it vividly, and I remember just like, I think I was trying to use an entire tablet of paper, and so I remember towards the end my writing just getting like really big because I just wanted to be done, but I wanted to have used each page. Never again.
No, I think it would be really cool, but I'm gonna leave that for people who are talented writers.
I feel like it's a really common thing for readers to also at least dabble in writing, but not me.
Writing is hard.
Oh yeah.
I was plotting a book with Evie Mitchell yesterday.
Were you?
Yeah.
I love giving people ideas.
She wants to do a Roy and Keeley inspired romance. And so I was just like, it's like, you have to include this and you have to include this. But I was like, I'll let you write it because
exactly.
I'm not gonna be able to do it.
I get really annoyed when people confuse ease of reading with ease of writing. And I'm just like, have you ever tried to write like a paragraph? It's not easy to make the words flow. It's so, if you're like not skilled at it, it's so disjointed and clunky, even though you're literally just trying to like do a paragraph.
I feel like that's part of the reason why I love reading is because like I'll read things and I'll be like, how did this come out of somebody's brain? I pretty much think in like bullet points and like that's it. That's all I have. And like
not even that for me. Like I cannot invent a single thing. Oh, no. I could not.
Fantasy worlds. Way beyond me.
Like my husband is really good at making up bedtime stories for the kids. Not me. It's basically a ripoff of a fairy tale each time, and usually it's just like
I heard this story once before and let me regurgitate it.
There's like, let me pull out the real books.
It's like such a poor man's like I lost the word I want, but it's a very poor version of it if I'm trying to just kind of remember and say it. It's not good. Okay, do y'all have any, or do you want me to do another one?
Go ahead.
You can do another one.
All right. Never will I ever spoil yourself for the ending. Like either read the last chapter or the last line or look up how the book ends. I will not. I like to know the worst thing that will happen. So like give me all the content warnings. And if you're like, I don't know, this one scene's really heavy, tell me what the scene is. Like I want to know. But besides that, I don't ever go to the end of a book.
I'll spoil myself. I love knowing if I'm not sure that it's a romance, I want to know how it ends first.
I mean, that makes sense. Yeah.
Like if I'm unsure
how the book's going for me.
Yeah.
Like
that is true.
If it's going really badly, yes, I will look and see if it gets better. I've done that a few times, like, and then I'll decide if I want to continue or DNF.
If I am not finishing, but I actually care to know how it ends, I usually look at like 2 or 3 star reviews. That's the only way I do it. I don't actually look at the book.
I've definitely like checked to see like if I'm in the middle of a series to see if it ends on a cliffhanger before I get there because I want to know. I need to mentally prepare if it's going to end on like a cliffhanger. I don't do it as much now that I read on my Kindle because you can't just like quickly flip to the end. But when I read physically, I have a really bad habit of reading the last paragraph first.
No,
but I know people get like upset about spoilers. You can spoil the whole book for me and I'll still read it.
Same. You can spoil the book for me. I don't care. I know like some people like you can't even tell them the synopsis of the book.
Yeah.
Tell them Jack. It's ridiculous.
I compared a book to Just Like Heaven and somebody like flipped out on me on Goodreads because apparently like that was a spoiler. And I was like, dude, he's a ghost. Like it tells you that in the synopsis.
What do you want from me?
Yeah, I have a friend like that. Like I was telling her about a book and I told her something. She's like, no, I don't want spoilers. I'm like, that's literally from the first chapter though. It's a synopsis.
I
need to like know something going in. I know. I think part of it is because growing up, like there was no Goodreads or anything like that. So, and a lot of times my books were either secondhand or they were from the library, right? So a lot of times the secondhand ones were really old hardcover books. So like the dust jacket was gone. There was no synopsis or anything. So I had like the title and that was it. So I wouldn't know what genre or any sort of thing that I was trying to read. So now I like love not having to wonder, is this a good guy? Is there going to be a relationship here? Is there going to be some sort of mystery? I like knowing like what I'm doing. I find it very frustrating.
I spoil myself to I need to know what the heat level is. Some of these romances you can't tell. So I have my list of words that I'll search and I'll flip through on Kindle just to make sure.
I know
Especially with the illustrated covers, they all look the same now. Like,
yeah.
Identical. I was actually just looking before we started at Instagram stories, and Brie and 11 Words shared that someone had like rated a book like medium spicy, and she was like, "That's closed door. There's nothing
Gallery. Gallery did that. They rated all of Christina, or every single one was 3 peppers or whatever, and we're like, if you just give them all 3, it loses the entire meaning.
Now. That's weird. That's so weird. I read it was supposed to be, well, I read it in the Love in the Night blog. It was supposed to be a horror erotica, right? Turns out it was a werewolf story with one mediocre sex scene. I was like, what is happening? Nothing.
That's why I have to look. I remember reading one book and I ended up DNFing it like 80% because every conversation in the book was like weirdly turning sexual, but at the same time, there was no actual sex scene in the book. I'm like at 80%, I'm like, what's going on here? They're not even really together yet. They're still just dancing around each other. No, and then I flipped through to see if there was any actual sex, and there was none, and I DNF'd.
I've DNF'd that late. Like if at this point you are not giving me what I want, why am I here?
I just like went to read the end, and I'm like, yeah, nothing still happens. So
it's like a Hallmark movie. They like kind of kiss in the last scene.
Right, exactly.
Like they agreed to a relationship at the end, but didn't actually have the relationship. I'm like, why are they talking about sex so much and there's no penetration in this book?
I hate that. I do not want to read about, like, a romance to me is not two people who want to be in a relationship, but you never actually see their relationship on page. Like if you are just getting together in the last chapter, no. Like I don't like it at all.
Oh, never will I ever DNF at 80%. I just DNF'd a book at 80%.
Sure, well, being a just image, she would.
Yeah, I almost DNF'd at 90%.
Yeah.
The only reason why I kept going was like, I have a chapter more. I might as well continue.
Yeah. I DNF'd Hunting Adeline at 78%.
I will not read that book.
I don't recommend it.
I have no interest.
Oh my god. Like the first book was okay. The second book, I could not. I made it.
It's just like so dramatic and weirdly dark, and
it was so dark. And like, have you read Pam Godwin?
Like one of their books, I think.
She wrote a series, it's called Deliver, which is all around sex trafficking. And like that one at least is like palatable. Right. Because it's not gruesome and graphic for the sake of being graphic, but Hunting Adeline, I swear, she just kept going just for like the sake of like
write trauma porn and pretend like it's a romance.
Just like, I could not. So I made it to 78% in DNF. So holding up anytime.
Yeah, I can't do those books where they're just like trauma dumping on each other all book long, and there's no real relationship because they're fighting having a relationship because of their past trauma.
Right.
And then the trauma's on page, and you're just like, okay, now I'm traumatized. Like,
I read one. It was by one of my favorite authors, and I hate this book so much. I read one where they were apart for like 10 years or so. Like she had a baby and he like left, and he thought that she left him and she thought he left her because other people were meddling and stuff, whatever, right? So she's been raising this child on her own as it has been going through it. Like the entire reason why she left in the first place was like her parents were killed in a car or in a plane crash. So like horrible things happening to her all the time. She almost dies in childbirth, all the things, right? And this man, after not having seen her for 10 years, not realizing that she had a child, he's like all about her, right? Okay. And they're going to get married, but he feels like he can't marry her without telling her about his past. And it will hurt too much when she leaves him because of his past, because he's such a bad man, right? So his brilliant plan is the week before the wedding, he's going to be so awful to her that she falls out of love with him, so that when she leaves him, it won't hurt as bad. The huge trauma reveal is that he stole things as a child who had no one taking care of him so he could eat and be provided for. And I was like,
Oh, I remember you talking about that book.
I'm still so mad. I'm still so mad about it. No, that is the stupidest reason you could possibly have to not be in a relationship with someone. I'm so sorry. I can't. Whatever.
I don't DNF at all. I wish I was the person that didn't DNF. I DNF all the time. Just like, I'll pick up a book and I'll be like, I don't like the first sentence.
I cannot think of a worse curse than having to finish all the books.
I DNF all the time.
It'd be awful.
When people
I've been DNFing a lot lately.
Yeah.
I haven't been as much, but I still for sure will.
Yeah. Like when people are like, I DNF'd 2 books this year. I'm like, I DNF'd like 2 books this week. Like,
right, exactly. No, he stole food as a child because he was hungry. Truly an awful human being.
Murdered.
If I feel like the book is going to be a 3 and below, sometimes I'll just DNF.
Same.
I'm like, it's not worth me pushing my way through this just to give it a mediocre review.
The thing is, for me, the only time that I would regret DNFing is if it's like an all-time favorite, you know? And the chances of that are like slim to none. I've actually done a video about books I almost DNF'd and ended up loving, but it's like, 5 or 6 in the last like 20 years. It's not very many.
Yeah.
But like, even if it's a 5-star, if I DNF'd, like, I do not have FOMO. Speaking of, never will I ever read a book out of FOMO. Like, I don't really think I'm gonna like it. I'm not really into the author, but it's so popular and everyone's talking about it and I want to know what they're talking about. No, I could not care less.
Yeah. No, I won't read books.
Yeah, I don't really read too many popular books. I can't say like I'm ever running to read one that everybody else is reading. The only one I did that, and that wasn't even out of FOMO, I was just curious to see what it was about, was Book of Night, because I had not read anything by that author in so long.
I ended up taking it off my TBR. I was like, no one says good things.
I can't even tell you what that book was about.
It's like, I will read popular books if I see them a lot. I'm like, okay, that sounds interesting. Like Unhinged. I love the Necessary Evil series, which I would have never heard about if it wasn't for the popularity. But then Book of Night or Babel or whatever, like I know they're not my jams. So like, I'm not. Everyone do their thing.
I won't not read a book that I'm interested in because it's popular, but I see some people, making bookish content. They're like, this is my 6th book by this author. I haven't liked any of them. I didn't like this one either. And I'm just like, what are you doing?
Or like Magnolia Parks is like the latest one that's been going around. Absolutely not.
Oh yeah, I will never make content like where I'm just hate reading books.
Yeah.
That's just not appealing to me.
It's not. I feel like if I went into a book thinking I would like it and then I hate it, then I will rant about it all day long. But it just sounds terrible to me to pick up a book that I'm like, oh, this is going to suck. Every minute of this is going to be awful. So I can make a ranty video.
What's the time to be like, I'm going to hate every second of this, so I'm going to waste 6 hours doing it?
Some creators do. And like those videos tend to do well. Yeah. And like if you're viewing it, I guess, as a content project, go for it. But for me, I feel like I'd be miserable, so I don't want to.
Yeah, I'd be miserable. It'll take me like a week, possibly 2, to finish the bad book. And then I'll just like, I won't even know what to say at the end anyway, because I'll just have tortured myself through it.
Like, yeah, I didn't like it, just like I thought.
I feel like the only way I could do something like that is to like treat it like a signed reading. So like 2 chapters a day or something like that. Not like, okay, I can't read anything else until I'm done with this book I don't want to be reading.
I'm not good with doing tasks I don't
No,
want to
Tia
do.
Summers is reading Book of Night. Maybe she'll be the one person who enjoys it, because I have not come across anybody who liked that book.
I have seen exactly one person like it.
Yeah, I've only seen like 3 stars or lower, where people are like, it was fine, or no, I hated it.
The only people I've seen say that book is good were other authors. So I feel like that's the only reason why they were saying the book was good.
Right. I saw one, I forget her name. I know their channel is the Roomies Digest, but one of them read it. I can't remember. And she liked it, but she said if you were going in expecting like an adult Cruel Prince, you're gonna hate it. Like that's not what it is. But
I wasn't even comparing it to the Cruel Prince because I never read the Cruel Prince. I went into it, I'm just like expecting an adult fantasy, and I'm like, there's barely magic, and even though everybody's like 30 something, they don't really feel adult. And then you spend so much time with the main character at the age of 12.
No. I hate that. I do.
Elle just did a video that made me chuckle because it was titled like adult fantasy that actually has adult characters. And I was like, that's really tragic that you need to make that video.
It's true though. There's a lot of adult fantasy that has teens, and then it's really weird because some will be very adult, some will feel very childish, and then some will feel very YA. So it's hard to judge.
Yeah, it just made me chuckle because I was like, wait, art and I was like, no, yeah, that makes a lot of sense thinking about the adult fantasy that gets like really popular. Yeah.
I did hear that
in fantasy too is another thing like I have to spoil myself on because you never know where the author is going with some of these romances.
Oh yeah.
They kill a lot of them.
They do.
I did hear that that people who liked Tithe and those types of Polly Black books would like Book of Night more than others, but I'm not reading either of them, so that's secondhand opinion. I don't know.
I've never read a Holly Black book.
I only read the Spiderwick Chronicles like years ago.
I would say I've heard of that one. Like I feel like that one was popular when I was younger, but
I really did like the Cruel Prince, that whole trilogy, but that was another one that like I just picked up on my library. I didn't have any expectations or know any hype or anything about it. I literally picked it up because I liked the cover and then I saw it was about Faye and I liked Faye. So I was like, okay, let me read this. So I didn't have any expectations and I almost DNF'd it and I ended up absolutely loving it. But it's like you can't get away from it on BookTube. Okay, next one. Start a book club. I personally feel like there are enough. So I won't ever be. And also I hate assigned reading. So
I don't think I could bring anything like unique enough to a book club. Like I feel like like you said, it's so saturated that if you're gonna start one, it needs to like have something to it. I don't think that needs to be me.
I don't mind like jumping on like the group read with somebody else for their book club, but I feel like every time I pick up a book for a book club, I end up hating that book.
Exactly.
And then like you can't DNF it if you're the host.
Yeah. Yeah, I do them in like I do Riley's in her Discord. Like if I actually already want to read the book. Like that's the only time I participate.
Exactly.
Like, I won't add a book to my TBR for a book.
See, I won't add a book to my TBR. Sometimes I will watch the discussion for a book I've already read. But every book I've read for a book club has been awful. So
yeah, like every time I've read for a book club, I'm like, this was terrible.
I hate them all. I'm like, surely the next one will be fine, and it's not.
That's funny because I actually did do a live show with Riley for her book club, and we read The New Trisha Wolf, and we all gave it 2 stars. It was like me, Vish, and Riley, and all of us were just like 2 stars. It sucked.
So unfortunate.
I chose the book for a book club read this year, and then it ended up being one of my worst reads this year.
Yeah. I feel like that would be so much pressure too, to like pick good books, and then when they're awful and you're just like, I made all these people do this.
Yes, that's why for like readathons and stuff, I really like when someone has already read the book. Like not everyone has to have, but when somebody has, and they're like, no, this is like decent quality. I appreciate that. That's like the only time it works out, I feel like.
And then I feel like I always see like people who do like the big read-alongs for a series, and they get like partway through and everyone starts disliking it and like it starts losing steam, and then
That's exactly why the only one that I think I will ever commit to, although I did commit to the Broken Earth trilogy by N.K. Jemisin. I never read that before, and I committed and did it, which obviously it was great. Very heavy, but excellent. But generally speaking, I will only do it for series that I've already read and are like my all-time favorites. And I'm like, oh yes, I'm going to have a wonderful time rereading and discussing this with you. But in no way am I committing to a 16-book series that I don't know if I like it. Like, I simply cannot.
I struggle with buddy reads too. I feel like every buddy read I do, we all end up hating the book.
I always end up DNFing, I feel like. Like, sorry to abandon you, but I'm done.
Yeah, I did a buddy read this year too that we both DNF'd.
I feel like it's much better if you just
I
admit.
pushed my way through just so I could talk about it with the people I'm buddy reading with, but it's usually something where I don't remember half of what happened because the book was that bad.
Yeah. Yeah, and I feel like like I said, the good book clubs, they have like something to offer the book club to make it like, I don't know, something special. And I just,
right.
I don't think that's me.
I also feel like it's hard to do that on a theme that makes sense, that also you want to read that theme that frequently and have as many good options for it, and all the things. It's just a lot more factors than you would think.
Yeah. I know the Reading Color book club, where they were trying to do all kinds of different activities that they recently are starting over because is it The Story Ain't Over?
No,
so much work to try and get
name.
Yeah.
That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
Yes.
She was like, it was just so much work to try and get, all of this to work out. But like, she really wanted to do it. And like, I was like, that's awesome. Like, I could not do that.
It's honestly very
so much work
to
make it something like really special.
Right.
And I don't mind reading on a timeline, but I struggle when it comes to book club books, reading those in time for the discussion.
Right.
And like timing it right so you don't forget everything by the time that the live show comes around.
Yeah. You either need somebody who read it last minute to help jog your memory, or someone who took really good notes. Especially, I think, just like in the middle of the conversation. That's why I always have notes for live shows, because my mind will completely blank out on me and I've got nothing.
Yeah. I joke about that with Brie when she does her like Q&A things. I was like, I needed the questions ahead of time, because I was like, if you ask me about a favorite book on the spot, I will forget every single book I've ever read.
I don't like any books. I don't know.
Reading.
The worst is when your favorite book is the book club read and everybody else hates it.
Oh, that would make me so sad.
That happened to me too. We sat there at the book discussion and everybody else hated the book, and I'm like, well, I liked it.
I loved it.
You know what? I actually tuned in for a live show like that. It was like my favorite book of the year, and they were like, I'm like typing away in the comments, fighting for my life, all caps. That's not what it meant. Did not go well. I didn't change their minds. Yes, I knew why, but I just confused the names. Listen, if it starts with the same letter, if it has a similar, it has books in it, just confuse everybody's things.
I'll never pretend to like a book, but especially like the popular ones. The popular ones don't need me to pretend to like it. They get enough
Okay.
5-star books or 5-star.
On that note, pretend to have read a book. Like, I feel like I did that in school. Like, I lied and said I read the homework, but I'm never going to do it for content. Like, it's so easy to be like, and this book is on my TBR.
Yeah.
I feel like some people do that because I've definitely come across watching people's wrap-ups where they're talking about this book that's supposedly their favorite, and you can tell they're only like saying it's their favorite because of the author, and I'm like, they're reading you the synopsis, and the synopsis isn't really what the book is totally about. It's just like a small piece of the book.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I
And I'm like,
totally
you can
did
read
in
this.
school. Like, I never actually read Of Mice and Men. Like, you could not have paid me to actually read that.
Oh, I did, and it was, and we watched the movie, and both were bad.
Okay, I didn't miss out. But like now, no.
It's always funny. Ashley is so great at this. Ashley at Bookish Realm, because she will be like, "That's not what the book's about." To like random
It's true.
people.
That's not what I get so annoyed watching. I'm like, that's not what the book's about. They didn't read it.
There was someone who read a book on her recommendation, right? Talked about how much she loved it and said about how they were on opposite sides of the war and stuff. And Ashley was like, "There's no war in that book. That's not what it is." I was dying of laughter.
That's so funny. And I feel like I've read so many books. Like, why would I don't need to pretend to read them.
I'll rec a book to somebody if I think they'll like it, even if I didn't read it. I'll be like, well, based on the synopsis, but I'll admit I didn't read it. I don't know why people pretend they read it.
It's so easy to say, I've heard this is good, or I've heard this trope is in this book. Like,
yeah, or
you
to
could
say like
mention the
somebody
book.
else I watched really liked this, and it sounds similar to what you're looking for.
Right. And
I don't know why
like,
people keep recommending arsenic and adobo for Latinx rep. It's like they don't know anything about Latinx culture.
I knew you were gonna bring that up.
No, because Ray brought it up, and I'm like, that made me mad too. Like, because I'm like, I feel like they only saw the adobo part and decided it was Latinx, and I'm like,
they saw the title.
Spain conquered all over the world. Because
I
have a Spanish last name, so I got people all the time asking me and getting confused about my background. And I'm like, Spain was all over the world.
Right. There's a reason why all of us speak English. There's a reason why so many people speak Spanish.
I've definitely done like mixing up things, but usually I figure it out halfway through talking and then I refilm the clip.
Not me, man. I'm just in editing, like, no.
Well, when that was the book of the month pick, all these people were like boldly talking about they were reading it for Latinx rep, and I'm like, why didn't you research the book before you made your book of the month video? And book of the month approves those videos. So I'm like, why didn't they correct them?
Because they don't care or no.
Like you guys supposedly read the books before you choose them, so
right. The book of the month team. Yeah. Nope. And they still do it. And they also do it with like anyone with a specific sounding last name or a specific type of title or any of the things. And
by a white
I think what it is a lot of times is you saw someone else mistakenly recommend it that way, and you didn't fact check and haven't read it yourself, and so it just continues being spread, and it's just misinformation. But it's like weird how it always happens, just certain things.
I've noticed that too. Like when popular books come around, there's like little phrases that tend to float around on BookTube in order to describe that book, because we all hear each other saying that thing.
Yeah, exactly.
And then after a while, it's like, are we all just mimicking each other?
I know.
Well, depending on the content of the book too, they'll be like, "This is an important book." Was it important though?
Was it?
For who?
Do you learn anything? Or was it just trauma porn about a black or brown person. Like, I feel like that is it the majority of the time.
That's usually it.
Like, this is the best romance of the year, and it's like so traumatic. But they told each other they loved each other at the end. So
I hate when you're reading like what's supposed to be a rom-com, and it's fine until like after the 50% mark, and then they just throw in some random trauma.
Yeah, it's like I was here for the laughs.
You'll never see me recommending a rom-com book that I did not just think was hilarious and lighthearted from beginning to end, which is why I have literally like one book marked as rom-com for the entire year. Like most of them aren't. That's not what they are. That's not what it is.
Yeah, like you can't just switch from being funny and light and then be like, well, this person's father drowned. Like, that actually happened to me in a book this year.
I will say the Dead Romantics did that to me, but luckily it happened at the beginning. And so at first I was like really jarred because I was like, wait a minute. But then like it got better afterwards. If it had been the other way where it happened at the end, I probably would have like shredded the book.
Yeah, Ray's reading popular book for content. I wouldn't read it. So I pushed it on her.
All the time. I feel like she's being a liar right now because her drunk reviews and stuff, so many of it, it's like people were like, hey, you know what book you should read for this? And then she does it. So I don't know. I don't really believe you on that one, Ray. I've watched too many of your videos. Okay. Never will I ever steal content. I feel like I know this happens, and sometimes I get like screenshots and stuff sent to me of like, it's very interesting how this person posted this. Or it will be like, like really large booktubers and stuff, and they'll be like, hey, I just had an idea, and I'm like, we all know that the person with like over 100,000 subscribers has been doing that recently, and it's been doing well. Like, you didn't have an idea. You didn't have an idea. You saw it from somebody else.
It takes like 2 seconds you don't have to
approve of everything that the person does to be like, and yeah, I saw this idea from fill in the blank.
It takes 2 seconds to link their channel in your description box and be like, hey, this is where the idea's from.
Or steal a recommendation. Like, if you know one person was talking about this book, no one else was really talking about it, and all of a sudden you're talking about it, just admit, oh, well, I saw so-and-so talk about it and I decided to pick it up. Yeah. How is that hard?
I feel like there's a weird amount.
Because that's happened to me before, too. I'm like, I was the only one talking about a book, and then suddenly it showed up on somebody else's page.
Like, they'll only say they got a book or idea from, like, their inner circle. And it's like, that's not the only people you're getting ideas or book recs from. What's so hard about saying another name? Like, I know you really like these 3 or 4 people, but if you've got an idea from somebody outside of that circle, you should say who it was.
And like, I think it's similar to like how there's no like new ideas for books. Like, there's only so many content ideas that you can make. So just saying like, hey, I saw this video and I thought this was really cool, so I'm doing this little spin on it. Or I'm doing this exact same video because it was fun.
Right. It's
no one's gonna be like, click off your video because they're like, oh, well.
Exactly. That's exactly. I'm like, no one judges you because you weren't the first person to ever discover this book. Yeah. No, none of us judge you for that. We do judge you when we're like, I know exactly where you got that from. I know.
I've seen as far as somebody pretend like beef with an author was beef they were having with an author, and it was actually somebody else. Like, they stole their screenshots and like removed their name from it.
That is wild.
And made like a whole TikTok about this beef, and it had nothing to do with them. It wasn't between them and the author. It was somebody else and the author.
That I can see that happening on TikTok because
somebody showed me that, and I was like shocked. I could not believe it.
Well, I feel like the TikTok algorithm, like those people won't necessarily see what you did. Like a lot of times it's, a completely different audience that's seeing your content. So that's wild. Also, this is like the opposite, but I've seen people say that it's not okay to say that you got an idea yourself without like doing a Google search or a search on YouTube to see who else has done it before and then linking them. I'm like, okay, but if you didn't see them and you genuinely did not get the
That's
idea
extreme.
from them,
Yeah, that's a little far.
exactly. And they'll like particularly say it about bigger channels, which I feel like is weird. I feel like yes, your channel's going or your video is going to come up in search first, but if you actually had the idea, because we're all having the same ideas all the time. It's no big deal for it's no big deal for someone else to do a similar thing if they genuinely didn't get it from you, right? Like I don't know, even like this, it's ridiculous to act like, well, this was my brainchild. No one else is ever going to think of this on their own. So if you do it, you definitely got it from me. Like, no.
That makes me think of the author that tried to trademark, what was the word? Like she tried to trade. Yes.
Yes.
We're like, it's mine. It's mine now. Sorry, guys.
There's like a restaurant in England that is I saw this. Okay, this is completely random. I'm so sorry, but now I need to get it off my chest. They like named their restaurant like taco place or whatever, like in Spanish, and then like just that. And then we're trying to like send cease and desist letters and everything to other taco places that also use the word. It's like it literally just means taco place. You can't take it. Like that's what the restaurant is.
Words. This word is mine.
It's wild. I know that this happens. And sometimes I'm just like, I mean, it's cool if you don't want to acknowledge any of us, but we know where you got the book from. Like, we know who was talking
It
about
happened to me a lot in 2020 when everybody was rushing for Black books. Because what I did was on Twitter, I made like this huge tweet, like it had thousands of likes of like books I said that nobody was talking about by Black authors. And then all of a sudden, people were pulling those books, but they weren't mentioning me.
They're like, I just found this. Isn't this amazing?
I'm like, it's funny how so many people were following me and liked that tweet, and then they suddenly picked up Catherine House.
Right.
I love Catherine.
And that was like not on BookTube's radar prior to that. And it was already out at that time.
Oh,
I had this happen to me with someone, and they were like, I discovered this, and it's my favorite series. And I was like, you discovered it in my comment on your channel suggesting this book series. Like you discovered it in my content. My comment. I hate to break it to you, but there was no discovery happening. You read the words I typed out, and you said thank you, and then you pretended like you found it.
And they just couldn't give you the credit like it wasn't in their comment section?
Listen, I have a theory. This is conspiracy theory time, but that's fine. I have a theory that some people like specifically don't like me, and so if you want to stay on good terms with them, you can't admit that you like me or know me in any way. So there's like some people, they won't repost anything I tag them in, they won't comment on my channel, or anything like that, but they're in my DMs, and I'm like, hi, like, can you not publicly acknowledge me? I'm not sure what is happening here.
Conspiracy theory.
It is a conspiracy theory, but I'm right. Okay, next, right on that. Watch people you dislike. I won't do it. I will hide your channel. I will mute you. I do not want to know what you're doing. Honestly, I will also consider unfollowing people who like share your stuff a lot because I'm so annoyed by seeing your face in my feed. I'm just like, what are you doing here?
I've done that too.
I don't know.
Unfollowed somebody.
I just unfollow
I
people.
unfollowed somebody for
Wow.
I
so
unfollowed
rude.
somebody because they liked an author, like it was one of their favorite authors, and I got in a whole Twitter feud with that author. So like I can't see their face pop up on my feed all the time.
Yeah, I'm not. I feel like I'm too old to care. I'm like, if I don't agree with you, I'm just gonna stop following you.
My thing is, I will like know this if I'm bothered by like saying something, and I'm like, all right, so let me hide this where this is not bothering me at all.
I am so pro like social media blocking. Like I do it everywhere. Like if somebody like creeps me out in any way, I'm just like block. Like I don't care if I'm overreacting. I'm just immediate. I'm like, that's like my favorite
No.
feature on social media.
If you have like a man in your profile picture and you're DMing me with like, hey, or can I ask you a weird question? Block. Goodbye. I don't know you.
Literally not accept a friend request on Goodreads from a man.
I will, for every Goodreads request I get, I click on their books, and if we have nothing in common, then no. Speaking of, never will I ever use Goodreads as a dating service.
That's why I won't do it.
I don't understand how people do that.
Yeah.
I don't know. But it happens.
It does. I've accepted a men's request on Goodreads and they immediately DM and I was like, never again. Never again.
I've
I've never gotten the dating request.
I've gotten like a friend request from a guy that was like harassing people about reading his erotica, and if they didn't like 5-star it, then he was like doing stalkerish behavior. It was weird. But I ignored him. Okay, here's the thing. I have to hide them for my mental health, right? For my own well-being, for my own like peace, because I will feel like graded on if I'm constantly having to see people who either like, mainly it's I know they dislike me, so I don't want to see them, or there's like something that they've done that I just can't do it. So, but if I didn't have to do that, I would 100% stay sub to those people and give them no engagement so I could help tank their numbers. Like that is what I would want to do. But I can't. It's very annoying.
No, I follow or I block a lot more on Instagram than YouTube.
I have to hide those people.
Yeah, I hide people on Instagram all the time for like sharing obnoxious authors and stuff where I'm just like, I can't with you.
I mean, I feel like if I annoy you, then I'm probably gonna really annoy you. I don't know.
Exactly.
There's something I was gonna say, but I don't know what it was.
I mute people too who annoy me on Twitter all the time. Like if I feel like your posts are constantly grating my nerves, I'm just going to mute you.
I need to mute more people over there.
I have to get off Twitter because I would go there and I would just get so angry. And I was like, all right.
I had an author block me before, and I don't even know why they blocked me. I just knew I was blocked because when you can see like people are like responding to their tweet or like they reposted your tweet and then you can't see their tweet. That's why I knew it was blocked. But she unblocked me when her book was coming out, like when the cover was revealed, and she was trying to get people excited about this book. And I know she wanted me to like request an ARC to read it.
She's like, you have a big following, so now we're friends again.
And like we've never
like you probably didn't know.
We never had like one-on-one interaction. I'm like, I don't know what I said it was that she blocked me over, but clearly she got over it.
It's funny. I most of the time too, I just I try and have a balance. I feel like this is hard for me because I like want to support people's channels and stuff, but obviously I don't like everybody's content. So I try to like um only be subscribed to people that I am like watching their stuff. But then I'm also like, am I not anonymous enough? Like, are they going to be upset if I'm no longer? Which is all in my head because no one ever cares about like.
I don't think I would ever notice if somebody.
I do. In
All right.
fact, sometimes, not all the time, but like specific people, basically other bookish content creators, especially when I will get like a comment on an old video. And so I'll go to that comment section and I'm like, look at all these people in my comment section. They're not here anymore.
Yeah, no, I feel like I just don't pay attention like at all. And I think part of it is like for me, it's just a hobby. So I'm like, if you want to unfollow me,
Right.
like, do you, man? I don't
Right.
care.
Right.
I unsubscribe to people if I feel like I'm not watching any of their videos. Like, I unsubscribed from somebody because they were mostly posting book hauls.
Right.
And
Yeah,
I'm
I'll
like,
do that too.
and I'm just like, well, I'm not going to watch their content because with book hauls, I don't really like to watch them because I end up skipping through most of them to find the interesting books. So I'm like, there's no point in me watching them. And if that's going to be the majority of your content, it's not worth me subscribing.
Right.
Yeah, I will go through every now and then and unfollow if I'm like, I haven't watched your channel in
Right.
however long. Because I'm like, I know that messes with numbers. And so it's like, if
Right.
I'm not actively watching your channel, and like you said, usually it's like, yeah, I won't watch book hauls because it's just you going, I don't know what this is about.
I don't watch book hauls. Okay. Never will I do a bookish unboxing. I hate those videos. I skip past them so hard. It doesn't matter. It's not like a moral failing for you to do unboxings all the time. I just don't care at all and will never ever do it myself.
I think I did 2 on my channel, and they were ones that I actually purchased and not like it was just like something that I purchased and I unboxed. But I don't subscribe to book boxes usually, so
I did one time, and again, it was one that I bought myself, and it's not even up anymore because I didn't like how the video came out.
yeah, they're not fun to film, and they're not fun to edit, and they're not fun to watch. So
They're not fun to film.
yeah, afterwards I was just like, what an unsatisfying video.
Because everything was like, I don't know what fandom this is from.
Same.
Which is one of the reasons why I don't get book boxes. If you're not into like all the fantasies or all like the specific type of romances for those boxes, there's no point in getting the boxes. You won't know what anything is from.
And I
And
hate
I
getting
don't like being
random junk.
surprised because I'm like, I don't want to get a book that I already have or a book that I don't want to read.
Right.
That too.
Because there were so many times where I like when I first joined the book community and I would get like, like all those original book boxes and I would get them and be like, I'm never going to read this.
Right.
What am I going to do with this?
Right.
It's pretty, but
I'm
don't
definitely
make it.
not the target customer. I'm not the person to buy it. Okay. What about starting a readathon? I will never start a readathon.
No. I would co-host if somebody was like, hey, we need people for a readathon. But again, I'm not like super creative. Like to come up with like a unique idea that's like worth participating in.
You say as you make like all of the templates for Instagram stories,
Okay.
whereas I know 1,000,000% I will never make one.
I can't start my own readathon. People wanted me to start a readathon this year, and I'm like, I can't do it. I would be struggling to find time to actually do the things to engage with people. Like people like sprints and stuff for readathons, and I don't ever see myself doing sprints on my channel. So that's not going to happen. I'm like, I can't read on a sprint. I struggle to read on a sprint unless I'm listening to an audiobook. Most of the time, I'm just like doing other stuff. So I'm like, I can't host reading sprints because I would get no reading done.
Right.
I feel like I've been in like memberships and discords too and gotten some of the behind the scenes, and it just seems like no one ever has like a good time in their own readathon.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, one, there's so many, and I already like can't participate in as many as I would like because I can't stick to a TBR or a theme like that. And then also, it's a lot of work. It's a lot of effort to do it well, and nothing annoys me more. That's not true. Lots of things annoy me more, but this is an annoying thing when like you're hosting a readathon and then you're just like MIA for the whole thing. Like you don't respond to people who tagged you, you don't share their stuff, you made this. Like the whole reason why people are doing this is because you wanted them to. And now you're just pretending like their content isn't happening. If you are, especially, I feel like any host, but especially the creator of a readathon, you owe it to people uh to acknowledge to like watch their content about your readathon. I don't know. That's just me.
Yeah, that annoys me too when people are hosting the readathon and they don't acknowledge like the content other people are posting, or when people are hosting the readathon and the books that they are highlighting or letting people like their co-hosts highlight don't go along with the guidelines of their readathon.
Right.
Like Brie keeping up with all of Black Aweenathon things, like true superstar, because like it's a month long and like she's still sharing content. I'm just like,
know she does, and she also creates all the things. And then something I love about Brie is how like she will talk about, I'm rooting for everyone Black and all of that, and then like all of her products will be from like small Black owned businesses, and she will do so much work to like do what she's saying that she's doing. And I know like I started watching her the first round of Black Halloween like 2 years ago. Someone shared her video and I clicked on it, and in it she mentioned growing up Baptist and like sneaking out to go trick-or-treating and stuff, and I was like, hey, you and me, babe.
That's funny.
So she's been like, and that first round of Black Halloween, she did like so many tags, like original tags that she created and everything. Like she is always doing a massive amount of work for it. And she'll tell you like she's planning 2023 Black Halloween-a-thon now.
It's like she's always in like the sprints and everything. And I'm like, that is so much work. Like I feel like I would burn out.
I wouldn't have time to do all that stuff. She's doing like a lot. Like I'll randomly pop into people's sprints because I'm working during the day. So I'm like, and my job, I can't be like doing too many other things. I can scroll Twitter and like that's it because that doesn't require much effort.
Right.
Yeah, I feel like I've been in quite a few of the Black Halloween-a-thon sprints, and she seems to like always pop in and say hi. I would be like, how do you still have energy?
Yeah.
How are you still going 28 days in?
I've mentioned this in lives before, but I have a legitimate theory that she's an immortal something or other. Because the amount of things that she has done, like the degrees and the places she lives and the languages she speaks,
keep all the plants alive.
I'm just like, the plants. I'm like, listen, this is not all adding up. Okay.
Yeah, she puts a lot of effort for then. A lot of people do not put that much effort for a readathon.
Absolutely not. I feel like half the time they're just like, I made this. Go on. Read.
It's like a TBR video and a template or something. And I'm that half the time.
But that's so weird to me when people host a readathon and they don't update you with their progress in their own readathon.
They do nothing. I hate it so much.
And it's like, it's one thing, like, I've definitely fallen off of readathons. I was, like, I've posted Instagram and been like, totally going to participate, but I'm not a host. I'm under no obligation to follow through.
Right. And also, of course, life happens. If you were having, like, a family emergency or you're working 80 hours that week or, something happened that threw it off the rails, that's understandable. No one's asking you to put the readathon first, even though life completely smashed your plans. But if you one aren't saying that anything is happening because you don't even have to give details, right? You can be like, sorry guys, life has messed up. I'm really going to be barely participating in my own readathon. I'm so sorry. Like one simple update, that's totally fine. But if you don't say anything's happening and you're not doing anything and I like, why did you do it? No one said you had to make a readathon. You could have
That's
just
like with the book clubs where like people just like fall off of following through with the book club and they never tell you when the live is,
right.
if they finished reading the book.
Right. Like, I just don't understand because no one said you had to do it.
Yeah. And I think that's sort of like why I just won't do them. I'm just like, that's a lot to commit to. Like, it is so.
Right. I know for me, like everything with bookish content, I want to enjoy it. That's why I'm doing it because I'm not making enough money to make it worthwhile. Like, I'm doing it because I enjoy it. So I'm not going to try and do any of the things that don't sound fun to me. If it sounds fun to you, more power to you. I'm not trying to stop you. But like, it has to be your own personal taste. I don't know. I just feel like it's obvious, but I feel like a lot of people do it because they think this is a great idea.
Yeah.
Ooh, this reminds me of, well, never will I ever do a 30-day reading challenge. Like those, you know, like the people do those, I'll read 30 books in 30 days. And then they have the TBR with stacks of like thick books. And then at the end, like what annoys me is like they usually end up reading manga just so that they can finish and say they did it. And I'm like, there's nothing wrong with manga. It's definitely reading, but you like act like it's like the backup because you didn't get to finish your real book.
Yeah.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
I love all the people that are doing all of these readathons. I'm also participating in both, but listen, I'm going to do a TBR and y'all are going to see how I can make 30 and 30 about me. But I am very burned out on manga right now. So I'm doing exactly one volume of manga to participate in 30 and 30. And then Skoden, I think is how Kim says it, is indigenous. And I'm probably not going to do the prompts. I'm probably just going to do like a couple of indigenous authors. But I think I have 3 indigenous authors I'd really like to read. Criminal Intentions being one of them. But the other ones are like from the library, and people have them checked out and won't return them. And I'm just like, no, listen, I need them now. So we'll see.
I'm with you. I would never do a 30 books in 30 days. I wouldn't even bother trying.
I wouldn't do any sort of like even Black Readathon. I usually like kind of participate more one week or so than another. Like I cannot do 30 days of structured reading.
I can't do it either. And I'm pretty good at keeping up with my arcs and stuff. Even that I'm like, I can't do as much structured reading as doing those readathons or those 30-day challenges. Because I'm like, I cannot get through a book a day. I can't guarantee that.
I feel like I would get stressed because like, what if I don't have time to read one day? Like that, it's all done now. Like everything.
And they'll pick up some thick books too and be like, I'm reading 30 books in 3 days. I'm like, you're going to read that 500-page book and then follow it up with another 500-page book and then follow it up with another one?
No way. Yeah.
Right. I'm glad you asked.
There's days where I just don't want to read too, where it's just like, I'm not going to pick up a book today. Like I'm tired or I have a headache or whatever.
Yeah.
I'm not reading. I don't want to. See my job.
Right. I am currently 65% through the 768-page book. And it's going. I'm still very invested. So I have an update for you all on this. It's really more like 2 books in one. So we're following 2 different couples and we have their multi-POV. And we also have a couple POVs occasionally from like side characters. But what I really like about this is that it's all in chronological order. So you all know how sometimes when you read companion novels in like a romance series, sometimes with the later books or even the first book, you see like oh, and they looked like they were having an argument over there in the corner. So like you see details from the other couples in the book, and then you go and you start the next book and you start like back at the beginning and go through and you do that multiple times. So this one is like two books in one, but you're just getting the whole thing put in chronological order. And I'm actually really, really liking it. So
It's actually kind of cool. It's kinda cool.
it's
Ooh, I can never read a book that long, but good for you.
it's so wild. There's a lot happening.
Especially a romance, I can't do it.
I feel like I can only read books that long now with an audiobook. Like if I'm reading it physically, I get burnt out.
It's Demon's Dream. I don't know who the author is. Let me look on Goodreads here. And two of the main characters are Demon and Dream. It's by Elle Kaysen. So the two couples are like the two sisters and stuff of like this. It's Black Love. It's like all criminal underworld
I
stuff.
think I know somebody else who read that
Tama
768 page book.
at Shades and
Yes,
Pages.
I did see her talking about it.
She says it's her favorite book of the year. And I heard that they're stolen from the wedding in it. And I was like, oh, I love that. So I started it on the Black Readathon sprints yesterday. And I was like, guys, I'm so sorry. It's good. It's actually good. I have to keep reading it. It's really good. It's really good. Okay. There's a lot happening. I could go into vivid detail, but I'm not going to.
I love how I'm like, I would never read a book physically that long, but I'm like 5 books into the Criminal Intention series.
Exactly.
I just can't stop.
I'm just gonna read 5 books in the series in a week. It's totally different.
Well, each of the books is so short. They're only like 180 to like 200 and some pages. Like they're so short.
See, that I can do. I like short books. So
Yeah.
like the idea of picking up a big thick book is already intimidating to me.
But if you give me like 29 short books, I'll read all 29.
Demon's Dream has over 100 chapters. I was like, what? Because the chapters are pretty short and each chapter is a different POV, right? But I was on like chapter 35 and it was like 20% or something. I was like, wait a second, how many chapters are in this? It's like 105 chapters or something. Very close to that. See, I absolutely will. And look, I actually have a theory about this. Not you, Ray, but other people. I have a theory that sometimes people are like, romance isn't good enough to be that long, and I don't think that that's true. I think that like
it's
most romances should not be that long. Like I feel like whatever your book should be, the length of, do that. Don't try and make it longer or shorter.
I think it's because trad drags those books out. Like I struggle with those 350-page romances too. Usually they're traditionally published, and the middle kind of gets really slow and unnecessary.
Right.
And then there's that third act breakup for no reason whatsoever.
Yeah, I think like it is a skill to make a 500-page romance not feel long. It is definitely not a skill that a lot of authors have, but I think you're right. I think there's so many trade published books that they're like, it needs to be 320 pages. And so they fill it with nonsense so that they can have their actual plot at the end. And it's like, well, come on.
It's also where they put the third act breakup that makes no sense. Like it doesn't fit the characters, it doesn't fit the relationship, it doesn't fit the story. It's just, oh, we're at the 80% mark of the book. We have to do it.
Yeah, I like the authors who are like, who write their characters and saying, you know what, we're mature enough. Let's act like adults and have a real conversation. Those are my favorite types of romances.
Yes.
Or if the breakup is something that was outside of their control, then I get it, where it's like something terrible happened and it's like, okay, yeah, we ended up having difficulties because of, but when it's internal and they're just like, oh, I can't commit.
Right.
What?
Or it's like they knew they were making a mistake right away and then they still wait like 3 weeks to talk to the person and get back together. I'm like, what was the point? Like I would have an attitude if you just like left me hanging and just came back or like, I didn't mean it. But like, then what was the point? What was the point of any of it? So
Yeah,
annoying.
sometimes they can have an argument versus a full-on breakup. There's
Yes.
definitely a difference.
Yes.
And when authors do that, I love it. Because I'm like, oh yeah, this feels like a real couple. Because real couples don't break up for 3 weeks or a month or whatever at the 80% mark of the book.
I mean, I
every
feel like my
one.
cousin does do that though. So I know at least one couple who does that in real life.
Yeah. Yeah. But also, like, you're trying to really root for this couple. And if you're going to really root for this couple, you either need to really buy into their dysfunction works for them, or it needs to be a healthy relationship. And how many of those are going to break up at the end of the book? I don't know.
When they are dating over the course of a month too, and then they break up, and then they get back together with an engagement.
Like, no.
Or when it's like they've been dating for like such a short period of time, right? Less than like 2 months. And then they're like, I no longer believe in love. My whole life is ruined. I'm like, what?
You didn't even know his name.
Calm down.
Well, I like Christmas romance movies, but I hate a lot of Christmas romance books because they always try to squeeze in that engagement after like a couple weeks of dating. I'm like, y'all were only dating since right before Thanksgiving and then broke up during that time period.
I remember.
And now you guys are getting engaged?
It could be Christmas next year for an engagement. It's not that hard.
I remember reading Mistletoe Motive by Chloe Lisa, and at one point the heroine goes, I think I'm being ridiculous. And he's like, you are. And I was like, I've never seen this in a book before, and it changed my life.
Right.
She's like, am I overreacting? And he's like, yeah. And she's like, oh, okay. And like they worked it out, and I was like, genius.
When an author does that, you're like, yes, this is so satisfying. Like, this is all you needed to do.
That was it.
I
She
love
was
it
like,
when
oh,
they do
shoot,
that.
I overreacted. I was like, yeah.
I did have read a 600-page book on here, and obviously we're divided. Because there are definitely some romances too where like I don't want it to end. We are having such a good time with our characters, and they're not like pacing it to where it's like, okay, the conflict is coming. You're just having a great time. And I'm like, yes, add on another 200 pages of this. I am having a wonderful time.
I think that's why I like fantasy romance too, though. They have less of that breakup stuff and more of like just a couple being together.
Right. I feel like they have less internal conflict because they have more actual plot outside of the relationship.
Yeah. I feel like you get more of the external conflict. And so, like, they have to go through so much that, like, I feel like I believe their bond more because I'm like, this is literal life and death.
Yeah, they're sleeping on the ground together.
Yeah. I'm like, you, like, sliced up demons for each other, life and death situations. Like, you've really been through it.
Exactly.
And they tend to be over longer periods of time. So you don't get that, like you said, where it's, we've been dating since Thanksgiving and we're married by Christmas. Some
books really are. It's like 72 hours of their love story. Like they never saw each other before, and now they're gonna get married. It's like
I've given 2-star ratings. I've given a 2-star rating to a book before because at the end they're happily ever after. I was like, this book took place over 48 hours. Like, and it was so long, and I was like, I started losing track of time.
Right.
I don't get those books where it takes place over like the course of a week, but 2 months worth of drama happens.
Yeah. Like, what world is this?
Also, it's just, you only need one sentence that says the next week, the next day, the next Tuesday. Like, you can make time pass with one sentence added into your story.
Yeah.
There's no reason for it. I mean, there is sometimes when it's like forced proximity, or like they're on vacation or they're running for their life or whatever. It's like, okay, like we have a timeline happening. But not most books. Yes, thank you. Okay, listen, my email is where things go to die. Unseen, unread, unheard of. Like, I'm not, every time I sign up for a newsletter for a scene, it does not live up to my expectations. I'm just like, I could have lived without this. Now I
Yeah,
have to get rid of your emails.
Newsletter.
The only one newsletters I've read that had bonus scenes, they were like just bonus sex scenes that they cut out.
Yeah. I've never signed up for a newsletter for a bonus scene because I feel like it's just not worth it.
I've signed up for arcs. I've never signed up for bonus scenes.
Yeah, no way.
Like I know a relative, they met and within like a month they eloped and they've been married for like 20 years. Like it does happen, but it doesn't happen as often as romance books.
I would say. I think it happens too often in romance books. And
right.
That
happens too often. I feel like in romance books is like the sexual assault backstory for either of the main characters, but I just feel like it's like 1 in every 3 books at least. I'm like, do we have to have that in all the romances? I feel like no. I feel like we don't.
I feel like I get that in a lot of fantasy, and I'm like, do we have to make their life even more traumatic?
Right. Like they're going through a lot, man. They don't need to have traumatic pasts too. Their present is traumatic.
Right. Okay. Never will I ever read Colleen Hoover.
Oh, never.
I have read 2 and I will never read any new ones.
I know like people like it and I'm not like more power to you. I don't care. Enjoy it. But I know that I don't like rip your heart out authors or like trauma porn or this is, sobbing your eyes out. Yeah. That is not for me. So I'm not going to read it.
I don't understand the ugly crying people be doing on TikTok. I'm like, is it that serious?
Yeah. I did read. I read All Your Perfects and it was traumatizing, honestly. Like I sobbed uncontrollably.
And then
for
people
sure.
post the excerpts.
Yeah.
I think part of it for me is like
the excerpts of her books are cringy.
Yes, they are.
And like I think part of it for me is then people are like, it's so romantic. And I was like, no, it wasn't. It's not romance.
I've heard I haven't picked anything up, but I've heard that her books are like very emotionally manipulative. It is like you're sobbing your eyes out and then here's your happily ever after. It's like that.
Oh yeah. It totally is. And like you said, I mean whatever people want to read, they can read. But yeah. I don't want to feel that way. Like I feel like for me reading's an escape. I don't want to feel that way.
I don't want to feel annoyed, irritated, stressed, sad by my hobby. I don't. That's not why I'm doing it. To that
extent, because I'm a crier naturally. Like I cry all the time at like everything. So it's like I don't need you to go that far to
exactly
make me cry. They can hold hands, and I'm just like tearing up over here. Like
I feel like I'm very easy. My emotions while reading or even like watching shows, my emotions very easily go where you're trying to take me. Like if you're doing a good job, I'm along for the ride with you. If we're sad, I'm sad. If we're happy, I'm happy. Like I'm with you. So I don't need the saddest thing you've ever read to feel any sort of emotion. Like you just have to do it.
I knew her books weren't for me when people were posting that one and the couple was sitting there talking about their son's big balls. I'm like, I'm good.
That's odd. 9 is wild.
I did try reading a third. I started reading Heartbones and I hated it. And I was like, I think I'm done.
Mm-hmm. Also, I'm like you said, like I'm a natural crier. If I need to cry, I will cry. So I feel like some people read it because they're like, I need to cry. I can't cry, so I need something to make me cry. I'm not like that.
Me neither. I cry all the time in books. Yeah. If I feel the chemistry, and like I will cry even at happy scenes. Like if I feel their chemistry, I'm like, oh my God, they actually kissed, and I'll just start crying. And so I'm like, I don't need you
I
take
feel
you
like
on this emotional journey.
I feel like that's not really what I do, but I feel like if there's like if they're like talking about how much they love each other and how they like saved their lives or something like that, I'm just like, oh, you babies. So
But are
sweet.
her books like romance? Because they don't even sound like romances.
I
No,
don't think
they're
so.
not. I would call them contemporary,
Yeah.
but they get classified as romance because there's like they surround the couples.
Couple. Yeah.
But usually it is not about like their
I feel
actual
like
romance.
they
It's
can't
about their
really
trauma, and then they kiss at the end.
Yeah. No.
Women's fiction, yeah.
There's enough traumatic romance stories on the shelves anyway.
So many.
Nicholas Sparks. I always compare it. I'm like, it's like calling Nicholas Sparks romance.
Did you all see that she sold more copies than the Bible this year?
She sold more books than like any other. It's absolutely insane. And I'm like, all the power to her, but
she did the thing.
her anti-romance.
I believe it.
I laugh every time I go into Barnes and Nobles now because like if I walk into my Barnes and Noble, there are 2 tables on the first floor. You walk upstairs, there's another table, and she has an end cap. And I'm just like, damn. And they're like, we cannot keep her books on the shelf.
That's wild. It's truly wild. It's also wild because they used her as an example in the trial, like Penguin Random House versus the DOJ or whatever. I think they did. Someone did somewhere. Yeah, okay. And it's like you can't take literally the single most successful author and be like, here's your example of what you should be doing. Like that is the exception. That's not the rule. You can't take the single biggest one.
And she was popular pre-TikTok. They were using it as an example of, they always use her as an example of TikTok marketing. And I'm like, her books were really popular pre-TikTok. Everybody they use as an example, books were popular before TikTok.
Yeah.
I'm like, come to me with a book that actually blew up off of TikTok.
Yeah. Like all the indie authors that like got their books noticed because like they actually were talked about. Like those are like, yeah, Colleen Hoover didn't need more promotion.
Wild. I will never go to a book con. I don't think I will because I have so many reasons. Number one, social anxiety. I'm just like, that doesn't sound like a great time. No. Number two, I don't collect physical books. And I don't care about author signatures. So I don't really care about meeting the authors or getting their book or getting it signed or any of those things. And then like number 4 or whatever, I don't know what I'm on. It's like so much money and I don't think it sounds fun. I think like it sounds very stressful for me and like I'm getting things that I didn't actually want in the first place. The only reason I feel like I might ever go to one is to meet all the people I've met online. But for something like that, I would rather do like a get together or something rather than, okay, let's all pay for the tickets to this book con to stand in line together. I don't want to. It sounds terrible.
That's like my mindset as well. I'm like, I want to meet the people I talk to online. I really don't care too much about standing in line for a signature. I give away signed books all the time. That really doesn't mean much to me.
Right.
But I'm like, do I want to go to a con for that, or can't we just have like a retreat on like a Caribbean island or something?
Right.
With the same money.
We just have a nice vacation.
Yeah. I wouldn't go for similar reasons. Like I have really bad social anxiety. And so I don't do well outside of my routine and comfort zone. And 2, I have health stuff. And so I have such a restrictive diet and like all kinds of things that like I need in my personal space. And so I'm not good with going elsewhere unless I'm like with family. Like my husband and I will go on vacation, but like I'm not good by myself outside of my comfort zone.
Yeah.
Proximity too is another factor. Like I live near nothing. No authors are coming anywhere near me.
Same.
Right.
So I would have to travel minimum at least an hour and a half
Right.
No one comes
Yeah.
to the Midwest. So I would have,
Most
I think like the closest I could get was like Tennessee. And I was like, I'm not traveling 6 hours. Like, forget that.
and like a lot of times you're paying for a plane ticket and a hotel, and the actual ticket is also like significant.
Yeah.
Plus then you need to buy your books and stuff to get signed if you are like there's just
A lot.
it's a lot of money.
Yeah. Yeah. I think I think I would like, I would have fun for like the first day. And I think then I would get
Right,
freaked out
right.
and crash.
I just feel like by and large, I would either feel really awkward or wouldn't care at all that I was meeting you. I'm either like, oh, please let me just be like, hey, I love your books. Okay, bye. So
I
that's 10 seconds. Like I feel like any interaction longer than that, I would be like, okay, well, time to wrap this up.
I also am not like a hugger. I don't I have a very strict personal bubble and I don't, and so everyone who like runs up and like hugs the authors, I would be like, can we stay 6 feet apart?
Right, right. There's that too. I have found, I have to say, BookTube has been the greatest thing. I have found that I like socializing on the screen so much. Like, this is great.
Yeah.
I don't have to go anywhere. I don't have to.
Caribbean treat. I would say that was a good idea. That I would do.
Yeah, I was gonna do one this year with like Cindy from Book of Sins did one, but the where it was in Dominica, and it's just really hard to get there from where I am, and I'm like, literally I would have to take a plane to the same island most of my family lives on, and probably just so I would just end up staying there longer, going
Right,
ahead of time and spend more money to go back. I'm like, it was just too hard to get to where she was going.
right, right.
So I'm like, maybe next year when the location changes.
I I think I will, and so much of it is schedule and location, but I definitely think I will meet up with other booktubers. Like I know there's been some plans, and I do think that like the best case scenario is just like get a big Airbnb or whatever, and everyone's like there for a weekend, right?
Yeah.
But at the same time, like so much of it is, do you have the money? Do you have the schedule? How far are you going? How easy is it to get there? All of those things. There's
Yeah.
a lot of factors.
I think a bookish cruise would be fun though. Like, but I because I've been on a cruise before, but the part that I liked the most were like exploring the island and stuff.
Hmm. See, I'm very much a let me read my book on vacation. I don't actually want to do any of the things.
See, not a hugger. Yeah. I don't, and like it's really awkward too in those types of social situations because there's no good way to be like, please don't touch me.
Right,
There's no good way to do it. And so I end up just being like, ah, and like I hug them anyways, and then I feel awkward.
right, right.
And then it like exhausts me even further because I'm expending all of that like mental
Yes,
capacity touching people.
right. Yeah. I'm definitely the type, I definitely am an introvert in the sense that I recharge by being home by myself. So too much touching, too much socializing, any of it, I'm just like, wow, I am done. I'm very, very over being here. Even
But
though I
also,
was
I can
happy.
imagine the drama too that happens at some of those because we've heard like drama happen in the past.
Yeah, like those old like BookCon and Book Expo things where like everyone would post their vlogs about how much fun they had, and then like 2 weeks later there'd be all like here's actually what happened. Just be like, wait,
Yeah, it yes.
that's too much. It's too much for me.
Well, I feel like a lot of times people are like, readers are the best people in the world, and it's like readers are just regular
Well,
people who happen to read. Like
just
they're-
people.
we run the whole gambit, the whole spectrum. Like some of you are going to be awful human beings, even though we might like the same book.
That's true too. That was like the other day on Twitter. People were like, I can't believe like booksellers, there are booksellers who aren't totally into books. I'm like, booksellers are just sales associates.
It's
They
a job.
happen to work in a bookstore. Everybody's not working at Barnes and Noble because they love books.
Yeah. Like, does everyone love their job where you work? No.
I like
People
books, and I
treat
almost
it
worked
like-
at B&N, but it wasn't going because I wanted to like work at a place with books. I just wanted a job.
Right. People really treat it's like a whole elitism thing where it's like, you know, readers are smarter. You can't DNF a book because you need to give the author a fair try. You need to give the author another try. You need to, you know, read to learn, to really get something out of it. You can't read just like contemporary. It needs to be classics, like any type of thing. There's so many different layers of elitism, but a lot of it comes with reading is like this thing that we put on the pedestal, and reading and books are more valuable than any of the other media. It's like that's not really factual. That's just I also have a theory about this that a lot of people do it because when you're a kid, a lot of times I feel like if you're a heavy reader as a kid, that kind of goes hand in hand with not the most social, not the most popular child. And so if you are like, well, at least I'm a reader, like you're putting your worth in being a reader because people don't like you as much, maybe. And then you grow up to be a snob who's like, well, I'm a reader, so.
Yeah, I feel like it's very easy in online book communities to start making reading your whole personality, and a lot of people do that. And then you get burnt out from that too.
Yeah. Or it's like they're spending all of their disposable income on book hauls. It's like you can only sustain that for so long.
Yeah, that's why I don't do book hauls.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
can't imagine doing that, spending like majority of my disposable income. I'm like, I'd rather do food, to be honest.
Exactly. Exactly. Especially because I like reading digitally and stuff. So I am very much the type of reader, not that this is like a virtue, but I'm just the type of reader where I want to consume the book, and I like whatever the cheapest, easiest way to do that is, that's totally fine with me. I want to read the story. I don't actually care about owning the item or any of that. So
Yeah, the other never ever ever that I thought of was I won't own duplicate copies of books.
Oh, like all those like the 5 special editions, I won't do that either.
No. Mm-mm. Like
Yeah. I
I'm
don't.
like if I buy a different edition of the book because I liked it more, I'm just gonna get rid of the other one.
Yeah.
Like I got
Like, I
the
can
cover edition of
understand.
red, white, and royal blue, so I just unhauled my paperback copy. Like I don't
Right.
need them both. I'm not gonna read
Yeah.
them both.
It's one thing if I have the audiobook and like the ebook,
Yeah.
or like the audiobook and the physical book, because most of the time I didn't pay for the audiobook anyway.
Yeah.
But like having like the like 2 physical copies, I won't do. Some publishers do that where they'll send you the ARC and then they'll send you the finished copy anyway, and I always end up giving away 1 copy.
Yeah, it's like I
Right.
need both.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have a lot where I have the audiobook too because I'll get it like on script or, whatever. But yeah, not 2 physical copies. Like I don't need that cluttering up my space.
Right. What about, okay, this is a controversy, which I'm sure you all probably saw, but ripping or cutting your book in half in order to have a smaller book to make more mobile and take with you places without having to take the large book.
Isn't that what an e-reader's for?
I read on my phone on the Kindle most of the time. I don't usually take physical books with me
Yeah. I would
when I'm
never do
going
physical
places.
books.
So
I mean, I did as a kid. Like, I was for sure, you could look over at me and I had a book.
Oh, as a
But-
kid, yeah. But I
Right,
didn't have a
but-
phone as a child.
Exactly. We have moved on to bigger and greater things.
Yeah. No, even like when people are like, "Oh, I'm packing for vacation. Like, which of these books should I read or bring?" I was like,
I'm
"This."
packing some books for vacation, but I don't plan on reading any of them. I'm just packing them so I can take pictures for later
That's
content.
fair. That's fair.
That's the only thing I'm doing it for. I'm like, I'm not gonna have time to read on my vacation, to be honest.
Yeah. I'm like, I just
And I can't imagine. I don't like I can't rip my books in half to take with me. That's so weird. I hate when the books start falling apart and the pages start disappearing.
Yeah. I feel like that would be a disaster.
I don't even like to dog ear the pages in my books, so I definitely can't do that.
I do dog ear. That one I do. They can hear.
I just grab a bookmark.
My husband called me a monster.
For dog earing I can't do it.
Oh, I can. Okay. I will feel guilt about it, but I can't do it.
I will only do like if it's my book. Like if it's a library book, I'm not an evil human being. Like I won't damage anyone else's book. But if it's my book that I purchase, yeah.
Okay, yeah, this is what it was. It was like, let me find my camera. I'm not good at this. There was like a person who would cut all their books in half. It was like, it went viral a while ago, like a year or two ago.
Yeah.
But
I thought you were going to talk about the people who like cut their books up to make like art.
I mean, that also is fine to me, but you have to be careful. Like some people will do it with like classics and stuff, and then there will be like slurs or other very racist content on the page in their art, and it's like you actually might have wanted to skim that a little bit before you just put your page.
I don't ever see myself going into a physical book and like annotating and doing the highlighters with like all the tabs and stuff. I can't do that either.
No,
you're right.
That's too much for me. I think it's cool when people do it. I was never good at it in school when I was doing it because it's like if I'm actually reading and enjoying the book, I'm way too consumed by like stop and be like even in my books, that highlight feature, I don't use it nearly as much.
Yeah, barely.
I usually use it on something that I thought was particularly like funny or witty.
Yeah.
But I don't do anything with it. So I don't know why I bother. But sometimes I'm just like, oh, I really liked that specific line and that's it. It's like
I'll do that for that one specific line. Maybe I might mention it in my review, maybe I might not, but I don't usually have a lot of highlights. And then like some people are really good with their annotations, and then some people I don't understand what they're annotating the book about because they can't tell you what the book is about anyway. And I don't understand their color-coded system.
Bree from In Love and Words is really good at like she does all kinds of annotations and like does the passing around and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And like I feel like I would just be like, ha ha. Like I have nothing good to say.
I'm glad you brought that up because eventually I don't know when it's gonna happen because it's been ages since I was told this was happening. But I'm supposed to get a book from that like Bree is sending around. It's actually Sing Me to Sleep by R.M. Virtues. I've already read and loved the book, and I believe she's actually giving the annotated copy back to the author.
Oh, that's cool.
So, and I'm supposed to be like on the list for it. Still waiting. I don't know where it is.
I do love that one. That's a good one.
But I just got her annotation stickers. If I can find what I did with my new order of stickers. Probably not. But they are really cute. But I literally got them to use in my reading journal and maybe for that one book that I'm going to send.
Yeah.
I don't do well with reading journals either. I tried it 1 year. And I was never writing anything really.
Yes. Okay. I'm glad you brought that up too. Let me find my sticker first. You all talk amongst yourselves.
Yeah, I tried doing a reading journal. I felt like I read too much to keep up with it. Because I would get sick of like writing stuff in there. I'd be like, it's too many books.
Right. Okay, so I think the reason why mine has worked this year is because I don't keep track of every single book. That's not it. That I read or anything, because that's what I have for, like, that's what I do on BookTube and Goodreads. So I'm already writing like every book that I read in my, oh, it's not even in this pouch. That's why I can't find it. That's fine. I'm already doing my wrap up notes every month. So I'm already listing every single book that I read. So I'm not doing that again in my reading journal. That's wild. But I will just do like stats on it basically. So all I do is like color a little square in the section that I qualified for, and that's worked really well, and I've really enjoyed doing that a lot. There's this stupid. Oh, here it is. Okay, this is her like annotation stickers, and it's like different emotions and stuff, and then you just put it by your sentence. So I feel like that would be very, very easy to do. So that's my plan. But I'm mostly using it for the reading journal.
I can't even imagine myself doing that because I really don't highlight anything because it made me feel a specific emotion.
Yeah. I don't really generally either, but I feel like I could. But for my reading journal, I do my, if it qualified for a diversity thing, if it was a new to me or tried and true author, I do which subgenre and tropes it fell into and the length of the book and like which how I read it, like physical or an anticipated release. Because I was trying to keep track of like my anticipated releases and stuff, like the ones that I do for videos and everything, like the ones that I read, what do I actually end up rating them and stuff like that. So it's just like very simple and I love it.
I wish I see everyone's like really cool journals. Like Steph was saying that she did hers. Like she always does those videos with Brie, and like I'm like they look
Yeah.
so cool. I would fall so far behind, and then I'd just be like, I don't want to update it now.
Right. I usually do mine like a couple times a week.
Yeah.
But if I had to write out like reviews or anything like that, it absolutely would not happen. It would die.
Well, yeah, I write so many reviews, so I feel like that's good enough. I'm not going to write the same stuff
Right.
twice.
Yeah.
I feel like for me, all my bookish stuff is like orbiting specific things. One is my actual reading. Enjoying my reading is my goal. Like I am not sacrificing enjoying my reading to make content. And not just like one book, but just like as a trend in general. I want to enjoy what I'm reading. And then also like my booktube videos are the only content that I feel like really strongly about, right? About like being very consistent with or very like thorough with it. That's the only thing that I'm doing. So like reading's number one, booktube's number two, the rest is just kind of to complement those things. And in no way am I writing like a 6-paragraph Goodreads review or anything like that. Like if you want to know what I thought about the book, watch my wrap up. That's where you'll find out. And my reviews on Goodreads are either like loved it or met, or it's usually this is the thing I really disliked about the book or liked, or here's the content warnings. It is not a synopsis or here's what happened or any of the things. It's like bare bones minimum over there.
I used to do separate reviews for my blog and like a different one for Goodreads. And half the time I can't be bothered to do that anymore. So sometimes I'll just link the blog post.
Yeah, no, I would not.
I will. The only books that I write full reviews for are ones that I received from the publisher. Like if I'm sent an ARC, I try to write an actual review. And then other than that, I pretty much, I'll just be like, this is good. And then started doing the templates over on Instagram this year, and that's how I've been doing kind of like my book tracking. So I have like a most anticipated one and things like that, so that it was easier for me to update because I just got sick of having to like do stuff manually. Sorry, my cats are fighting.
I don't really hear them.
It looks really fun for other people, but like I said, there are also some people I've watched where I'm like, they do a lot of annotating and can't tell you anything about the book. So I'm like wondering what they annotated.
Every time he said something,
I'm not like a critical reader, and I think that's like, I feel like the people who read like critically do way better at annotating. I read for enjoyment, so I'm just like, I don't have any insightful things to say usually while I'm reading other than I liked this, which is why I'll just like highlight on my e-reader and be like, this was a pretty phrase. Like, I want to remember that.
I'm also just like reading for enjoyment. I do feel like BookTube has made me more critical because I'm like, okay, I have to remember that this happened and like mention it because I don't want people to think that I don't want people to think I didn't know this or didn't care or whatever. It's more, I don't want you going into the book and you're like, oh, why is this here? Like, why did you not tell me this is here? It's more of that. But at the same time, I'm reading for enjoyment. So I feel like I'm trying to enjoy your book. So if you're doing a good job, like I'm riding along with you. But if you are making such a mistake or whatever that it's jumping out at me and like I can't help but notice that like that doesn't track with what you said 5 pages ago, that bothers me so much because I'm not looking for it.
When you find the plot holes in a book, like I'm somebody who doesn't spot the plot holes easily, so if I found it, it was really obvious.
It's like when people are like, oh, I figured out the mystery right away. I'm like, if I ever figure out the answer to a mystery, you know that was bad. Because I'm not that type of person. I'd never pick that stuff up.
Right.
I'm such an oblivious reader sometimes. Like I just get lost in the story.
I agree. I'm not trying to figure it out. I want you to reveal it to me in due time. So it's annoying if I was like, okay, you could see this coming the whole time. My husband is the absolute worst. We will be like 5 minutes into a movie and he'll be like, I know what happens. And he's always right. He's always right about, and I'm like, no, that's ridiculous. And then he'll be right, and I will always be so annoyed with him.
Yeah, see, I am a very critical reader, but some people are like, to me, because I read so many arcs now, I can't really spot a lot of the mistakes because I'm just so used to them. So my friend was telling me, she's like, was reading House of Hunger, and she's like, it kept making me mad how many continuity errors were in it. Like 1 minute her coat would be on, and like the next second she'd be talking about how her coat was off, and she needed to put it on. I'm like, I think I'm blind to that now because I didn't see that at all.
I do that too. Same thing with spelling mistakes because I read so many arcs that like I'm so oblivious to like spelling things or like if there's an extra word in there because I read so many arcs that are still going through proofreading that I'm just like, I just skip over it. I don't care.
I will usually notice it, but I just refuse to have that factor into my reading.
Yeah.
I get so annoyed with people who are like taking a star off over some typos. And I'm just like, I mean, not like the whole book was just unreadable. I mean, like some typos. And I'm like, out of the whole story that you only have 5 stars to give? You're like, a couple typos takes off 1 or 2 of them for the whole story, for the whole thing.
I feel like people mostly do that with indie too, because I don't see people do that as much with trad, and I find a lot of mistakes in trad.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And they should have less mistakes because they go through more editors.
I was going to say half the indie people aren't even going through an actual editor. They're either doing it themselves or they're like going through different services. So I'm just like, cut them some slack, man.
Right. Exactly.
They didn't have an army of people trying to find these.
Right. If there's a lot of things, I might mention that like there's some typos and stuff. And if I'm saying that, then you know there was like a fair bit.
Yeah.
But I will not
Yeah.
allow it to factor into how I rate a book. Like I just won't. I find it very frustrating when people do. But I also feel like the people who absolutely cannot turn off their critical reading at all, that sounds miserable to me. Because like you're just trying to relax and you're just trying to have fun and you're like, oh, that grammar thing is wrong.
Yeah, and I'm not good with my own grammar, so if somebody had incorrect, I would never pick it up.
Exactly. Grammar was by far one of my worst subjects in school. I don't know why, but it was not. I pretty much got straight A's, not in grammar.
The only thing that ever bugs me while I'm reading is an author who overuses exclamation points.
Like, well, yes. I have DNF'd a book so quickly because I was like 2 pages in and we're just like every other sentence, exclamation point. And I'm like, what the frick is happening here? This is not how you write.
Like you can have 100 dashes and I'm cool with it, but you put in 4 exclamation points on 1 page and I'm out.
Literally, any other punctuation is totally fine. But if you overuse exclamation points, I don't know why. I'm just like, amateur hour. That's all I see. Because I'm like,
did you write this at 16?
So the overuse of run-on sentences is, and like, there's like some authors will just drag it out, and like the whole sentence is just one paragraph.
Yeah, I've definitely had that where it's just like I had to read it like 8 times to figure out what they were saying because it was a whole paragraph, and I was just like, use a comma or something. Like, help me out.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
That would annoy me. I need you to make it clear who I'm reading. I do. All right, I have 2 left and we're like at the 2-hour mark, so we're pretty much done. Stop in the middle of a page or chapter. I have always had to do this because I was like always reading in between all the things. And certainly as a parent, like if you have to finish the chapter, I don't know, it's like that's not an option. That's not a thing that you could do if you're surrounded by small humans. Like if you're responsible for anyone else, you have to stop now. Like they need the thing now. Like they just fell off the counter. I don't know. You can't just keep reading to the end of the chapter.
I don't know how people can do that. I think I saw people talking about that the other day on Twitter, and I'm like, I stop in the middle of sentences. Like I stop in the middle of chapters all the time. Like it doesn't matter if it's in the middle of the page, especially if I'm trying to read while working. I have to talk to a client, so I can't finish the chapter.
Yeah, that's, I was gonna say, I read like in between stuff because my job, like stuff will like run in the background. And so like I'll be reading and then like I'll get a phone call. I'll just close the book and pick it up later. I don't mind. And there's plenty of times where I'll like pause my audiobook while I'm doing something in the middle of like a sentence, and then I'll just get distracted and come back to it hours later. Like it doesn't bother me.
Right. And Vina, I definitely put this on the list because I saw people talking about it on Twitter.
Yeah, I saw people talking about it. I'm like, really? That's the big discourse of the day?
Twitter always needs discourse. They'll find it anywhere.
I'm not saying privilege in a bad way necessarily, but it's just wild. Like the privilege of you only read books when you can just sit in perfect peace and read your whole chapter is what, like, I cannot relate. I don't understand.
That's why I had to unfollow that romance, that like the romance category on Twitter. The takes that were coming up on there all the time, like when that one lady said, "Oh, you can't say that you're reading romance as a palate cleanser in between reading fantasy."
Yes, you can.
Anything could be a palate cleanser.
She got ratioed and ended up deleting that tweet because we're all just like, what are you talking about? Reading a light romance is not the same as reading like a hard sci-fi.
And it's also not saying that it's less
We're not saying it's
worthy.
bad.
It's saying it's a refresher.
I didn't have to think nearly as hard about this world building because it's our world.
Right.
I already know all the
I
rules.
enjoyed my time.
Yeah.
It was light and I enjoyed it. It's not a bad thing. Okay. Last one is never will I ever pronounce anything correctly.
No.
I was talking to Tama at Shades and Pages. I was like, how do I say your name? Because I never hear it said, like, ever. I only interact with you in text, and I'm like, I need to know, right? And she is just like, oh, it's pronounced how it's spelled. And I'm like, you underestimate my abilities. I promise.
I was calling her Tama, and then I felt like at one point I thought I was wrong, and I'm like, I think I've been pronouncing her name wrong.
I sent her a whole thing. I was like, I need to know. I realize I've known you for years, but listen, I can't take it anymore. I have to admit, I don't know how to say it.
And I only realized that I wasn't sure how to actually pronounce her name when I was doing a video recommending people who read romance. And then I was like, but is this how she says her name? I really don't know.
There's a reason why in every video I've always just referred to her as Shades and Pages.
Yeah. I've definitely done that, like used their people's channel names, because I would feel so terrible to be like, I love this creator, and then pronounce their name incorrectly.
Yeah. Rob and I were actually talking about this.
Yeah. The latest one was the author of Hallows Grove, like the new
novella.
novella.
Yeah, or what? It's like
I searched everywhere.
What?
Yeah. I tried finding the audiobook
pronunciation, but
yeah, and like none of the audiobooks pronounced her name, and I was just like, what do I do?
Yeah, I just accepted I'm probably saying it wrong, to be honest. But I hate when and Rob and I talked about this like a week or so ago. I hate when people don't say their name in like their videos or content, and then it's like, okay, I've been like, I have no idea what your name is. How am I supposed to know? I know your channel name, or even I don't. Like, I need you to say things for it to stick in my mind. There's so many like Instagram users and stuff that I need to have their username and their profile picture in front of me to know like what interactions I've had with this person. I can't, outside of that context, I have no idea, because it's all just like reading it and like mentally seeing it, and it's never out loud or with like a real person. It's just their profile picture, and I'm like, I have no idea who you are. I have no idea. If I am seeing your profile picture and your username, I'm like, oh yeah, no, I talk to you all the time.
I remember that happened when I changed my profile picture. I didn't recognize you at first.
I hate with that when people change their like either their username or their profile picture, and it takes you like a minute, you're staring and you're like, I follow this person, I know them. Who are you?
And so many people do this, but I'm like, can you please have the same picture and username across platforms? Like, I don't know that you're the same person. I don't. And then I'm like, oh, what?
I fixed mine, Heather. I'm sorry.
I think I'm like, did I fix mine? Because I feel like I fixed mine recently, because for a while it wasn't.
Same. Mine was backwards, and it drove everyone crazy. It drove me crazy.
Or they'll like change their pictures constantly. I'm like, listen, I need you to be easily identifiable in my mind as this is this person. Just your little profile picture. I don't know. It was so funny. I don't know if Cachet is still here, but like a year ago or so, yeah, it had to have been last year, because I won't change my profile picture like more than once a year or so, because I want it to be identifiable as this is who you're talking to, right? Well, I changed my profile picture, and then I replied to one of her tweets, and she was like, I did not know that was you. I was like, who is this white woman in my picture? It's still me. I just
That happened to me with a friend. She changes her profile name and picture often. So like a couple of times she came into my DMs like with like a joke picture, and I'm like, who is this white troll?
Or it's also like you're you're picking the picture that's like this big, and then people are seeing it in your little icon like this big, and it's like you can't even tell that you do in fact know that person because you really can't recognize them.
Like there's no details here.
Right.
That's why I changed my profile picture after you pointed that out. I'm like, oh, I didn't even realize it is showing me only so small.
Yeah.
I'm just out here trying to save everybody so I can know who you are. I'm struggling. All right. Does anybody have any last minute things? 'Cause I know we're over 2 hours, so.
No, I think we covered
A lot of them.
Covered all the things.
Yeah.
That's literally why I start my videos. That's hi. It's Heather from Hia Booktubes. Because I know I will remember if I hear you say it.
I feel like people stopped doing it during that like time where it was like you had to get your YouTube videos as short as possible, and everyone was like, just cut out all the excess. You don't need to say your name. And now that trend has kind of like gone away, and I feel like it's just carried over.
It frustrates me so much because I don't like having to message people or this is me just on my phone, like going to Instagram and then Twitter and then like where is your name in your profile? Like who are you?
Yeah.
I'm trying to talk about you and I feel awkward.
Especially if your handle isn't your name, because like if it's like Gabby Reads, it's like, okay, your name's Gabby, it's fine. But like I clearly don't have my name in my handle, so I feel like I have to say my name. Otherwise, like
I struggle when I'm looking for an author page and their handle is not anything similar to their name. Like even one of my author friends says that I can never remember what her handle is to find her page.
Yeah. Right.
Colby Gates is like that, and I was like looking for character art, and I was like, dude.
Yeah. Sometimes I am like trying to tag people in my stories or whatever, and I'm like, oh, great. Your username is not your booktube channel and it's not your name. How am I supposed to find you? Don't and we'll like follow each other. I'm like, I can't remember. I don't know what your random other username is.
Yeah.
Very frustrating. But it's fine. It's mild stuff. You can still be a good person and have confusing profiles. All right. I think we're done. Thank you so much to everyone for watching and participating. It was a lot of fun. I really appreciate Vina and Robin showing up and being with me. I know Vina has been here a few times, and this is Robin's first time. So welcome, Robin. And yeah, it was very fun, and I appreciate you all doing it with me. So thanks so much for watching. Bye.
Bye.